include reaching the finals of the 2014 Australian Open, as well as the semifinals of the French Open and the Final Four of the US Open mixed doubles that year. He has career double wins over such marginal so-so players such as Rafael Nadal, Andy Murray, Stan Wawrinka, and of course the legendary Bryan Brothers duo. He's beat them all on the doubles court. He succeeded Roger Federer as the president of the ATP Player Council in 2014. Eric is a three-time ITA All-American while playing for Gustavus Adolphus College. He won the NCAA Division III singles and doubles championships, as well as the 2003 National Arthur Ashe Sportsmanship Award. He spent 4 seasons as the assistant coach at Harvard University, and Mr. Buderek has just begun his tenure as the Director of Player Relations and Professional Tennis Operations for the United States Tennis Association. He's 6'3" and I'm guessing he's about 197 pounds. Please welcome from Rochester, Minnesota, the man they call Booty, Eric Buderek.
Wow, thank you for that intro, Tim. That was really something. That's a tough one to follow. Thank you to the TTCA for inviting me to come here and speak. Anytime I get to come and speak to coaches, it is an absolute honor. It is probably my favorite group to come and speak to. Thanks to Cy Dorfitas from Wilson for inviting me here as well. This is really something to see. A good friend of mine, the Harvard tennis coach, Dave Fish, told me that he was here a few years ago to speak, and he said, Eric, your mind is going to be blown, and that so far it has been. So I was invited to come today and tell a little bit about my story. The story is about how does a kid from small town Rochester, Minnesota get to go and play the US Open? That's what I get asked wherever I go. I think I hit it on the head today. It's a journey, it's a puzzle. You get to meet people throughout your life that will change you and redirect your path. For me, I was playing the USDA junior circuit when I was, I think, 11 years old. You know, battling it out, crying after every match, being cheated by the other kids on the court, all those great experiences. And I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I want to quit tennis. And she said, that's fine. You just got to go tell your dad. My dad was maybe the most respected coach in the state of Minnesota at the time. I was one of the top players. Wasn't really something I was looking forward to. He was outside mowing the lawn. He turned the lawnmower off when he saw me coming. It's one of those things where it's like the whole world is listening to you. And I said, Dad, I think I want to quit tennis. And he said, okay. And I was like, really? It's that easy? He said, what do you want to do? I said, well, I hadn't really thought about that yet. I didn't really quit tennis. I kept playing a little bit. I stopped playing tournaments for a couple of years. But what do you think brought me back? What brought me back to the game of tennis? High school tennis. A couple of years later, I had the opportunity to try out for the high school team, and I did. I got paired playing line 1 doubles with a 6'4" senior, and had the absolute time of my life. My favorite part of the whole experience? The bus rides. The longer the better. Because I got to hang out with all these seniors. I was going to be one of the cool guys. High school tennis became so important to me. I started getting more and more into my tennis with that as well. In '99, I went on to win the Minnesota State High School Tennis Tournament. However, as some of you know, just because you are a state champion or a great player in your high school tennis league doesn't mean you get recruited by the top schools. I didn't have a high USTA ranking, didn't have D1 coaches calling my house every night. I was lucky to get a walk-on opportunity at Ball State, Indiana, kind of a mid-ranked Division I program in Muncie. And after a good fall season, I found my way playing about number 5 singles when the spring season started. It was a great spot. I was doing exactly what I wanted to do, play with better players, play Division I tennis. This is what we aspire for, right? And as happens in your freshman year, I started to hit a bit of a freshman wall. Took a couple losses in a row, the coach moved me down to 6. And I have this memory of we were playing against Louisville, and the following weekend was when my parents were coming down to see us play against Notre Dame. So I really wanted to make sure I was in the lineup when they came down. And as I was playing on Louisville, I was down a set in a break, continuing to lose, and I remember sitting on the bench, and looking around at the number 5 guy, looking at the number 7 guy, and thinking, man, I hope they lose too. And when you have these sort of feelings as a player, like who do you share them with? You're not going to tell your friends that you're hoping they lose. You're not going to tell your coach who's been, telling you how this is a team and sport and we should care more about your team, that you just want to play in the lineup and you're so concerned. So I never really addressed those feelings at the time, but what I did was make a change. I decided to transfer to a Division III school, Gustavus Adolphus College, a small school in Minnesota. I got introduced to a coach there who changed my life. Steve Wilkinson. He's now in probably 9 tennis Hall of Fames as well. I got to the program, and he started me at number 2 singles. I remember saying, Will, what do I got to do to get to number 1? What do I got to get to number 1 singles? And he said, Eric, this whole process, it's so much more than that. We're going to focus on getting you to be the best player that you can be. And that was his mantra with me. Fairly soon after, I did go to number 1. And I was still result-focused. I was thinking, how can I be one of the best players in the country? He said, Eric, we're just getting better every day. We're going to see how good a tennis player you can be. My sophomore year, I went on to make the NCAA final. I returned my junior year as the number 1 player in Division III tennis. And sometimes, as you do, started taking tennis a little bit for granted. Joined the fraternity. I learned the bar specials that pretty much everyone in town. I had my first girlfriend. All while being the number 1 player in the country. My practices were okay. I still won most all my matches. And we got to the NCAA semifinals. We're the number 1 ranked team in the country. And of course, the match goes to 3-all. And I'm in a tiebreaker in 3rd, and I lose. We had 5 seniors on that team, and I was a junior as the number 1 player in the country, and I lost. I learned a couple of things that day. Number 1, you don't always get second chances. Once those guys graduated, we weren't going to win NCAA title next year. I learned that losing matches is hard. That's disappointing. I dealt with disappointment on the tour all the time. Fly around the world, lose a match, disappointing. But what I felt that day, my coach explained to me, is regret. I regretted that I hadn't worked hard that year. I hadn't given full effort. A lot of my teammates had, and even though I was the number 1 player, I had not. And that was hard to swallow. So I went into my senior year and said, I don't want to feel that again. And he helped me build a plan, a workout plan, extra hits in the morning, being fully invested. And went on to win the championship that year. I still never got the team title, which was really, really regretful. But what do you do when you win the NCAA tournament in Division III tennis? I didn't really know what to do. Most kids don't turn pro from Division III tennis, but I was talking to my coach. I said, I'm getting better every day. I don't want to see this end. I think there's more there. And he said, you got to try. So a couple of friends convinced me to move to France. And they said, over there, you could play these small money tournaments and make a living playing tennis. I never really left the country, so I was a little unsure. I was planning on being a high school teacher. I had my certificate, I was ready to be a high school history teacher. But these 2 guys convinced me to take a chance and move to France. As I was battling out in these tiny towns, playing tournaments where I was sleeping on couches, sleeping in our car, my coach was always back home saying, are you getting better today? What are you working on? When I got my first ATP point, it was celebrated like I'd won the US Open. I was ranked 1,496 in the world. And all my friends at the tournament felt like they were failing too, because the futures level of pro tennis is really hard. But the way my coach presented it, it was like I just achieved everything. But there was more still. So how he framed it was really what helped me become successful. Because kids come to me all the time and they say, I just want to make it on tour. I say, well, what's making it for you? I don't know, I want to make a living. So that's hard. Not a lot of people get to do that. For me, making it on tour was just becoming the best tennis player that I could be. And he helped me frame that early on and drilled it home. Now, while I was on tour, he was always pushing me to do stuff off the court. Right? You gotta learn a foreign language when you're traveling. You gotta go out and see the world. What art museums you visit this week? Always getting me to use my free time as wisely as possible. So, an opportunity presented itself, maybe my 2nd or 3rd year on tour. Guy on tour came and said, Eric, I want to nominate you for the ATP Player Council. I said, okay, I'm pretty new. I'm not really sure what that even means. It's a little, our governing board, our version of a players' union. I said, okay, that sounds interesting. I said, why do you think I would be good? He So you're one of the few guys I know with a college degree. I was a little concerned for the ATP players, or whoever's looking out for them, if that's all it really took to be qualified to represent them. But I happily took the nomination and was elected onto this group of 10 players. Now, I had started at a time when we were a totally new group, 10 new players. Now, also within that group of 10 was Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic. Me being only on my second year on tour, I've not really been spoken to any of these guys at that point. So all of a sudden I'm now in a boardroom with them, trying to make decisions on where the tour is headed. We would get emailed all these documents to read in advance, and I would always read them, take notes, detail, go into the meetings, but I wouldn't speak. I would let them hash it out. After about 4 or 5 meetings passed, maybe a year had gone by, our CEO at the time had sent us all these documents from Madrid about wanting to play their tournament on blue clay. I read them detailed. They talked about how you could see the ball better on television, and the courts play the same as the red stuff, and it would be just such a great thing. So I read it thinking, oh wow, this is great. And we got into the meeting, and Adam started the meeting and said, all right, everyone's read their Madrid documents. We're going to go around the room real quickly and get an initial feedback. Right? And says, Eric, you go first. It's like, okay. And I repeated what I read. It says that it plays the same as the red clay and looks better on TV. I think it's worth a try. Rafael Nadal was next. Rafael Nadal said, it's ridiculous that we play on blue clay 2 weeks before Roland Garros. All clay should be red. And then he went on a 2-minute tirade in Spanish while we all kind of patiently listened for him to finish, looked over to the other guy in the room who also spoke Spanish, and he said, Rafa votes no. I said, okay, 1-1. Next in line was Novak. Novak said, I actually hit on the blue clay court last year in Madrid. They had a trial court. It's incredibly slippery. I find it dangerous. I vote no. We were now down 2-1, and I was apparently putting the players in danger. Next was the king. Roger was about to speak. I was so worried until he said, I think blue clay is a great idea. And then we'll bring out the clowns and the elephants and have a circus on the court. That vote finished 9-1. My friend on the far side of the table, the other double specialist of the group, as required by the bylaws, said he was actually going to vote yes, but once it got to him and it was 8-1, he quickly went no. Choose your seats wisely in the boardroom, I thought. That was just one of the things that I honestly think that my coach helped me achieve. Being part of that council, I was a part of it for 8 years. He was the one who helped push me. He was the one who helped me take it seriously. Federer was the president for 6 years. When he stepped down, he asked me to be the president, and when I retired at the US Open, we passed it off to Novak. So I sandwiched myself in pretty good company. But my coach was my mentor. He was my everything. My parents were wonderful. They were the best parents I could ask for. But when I lost a really difficult match on the other side of the world, when my partner at the end of the year decided he didn't want to play with me anymore, my call was to my coach. And I imagine that you guys are that for someone else in your lives. And that is so much more important than what we do on the court. As I've had a car ride, a dinner, a breakfast, a lunch here, I've been here for 24 hours. I keep hearing the same things. I've been the coach for 10, 20, 30 years. My players come back and visit. We have a reunion. We still come and play tennis. That's what's so important. That's what's so special about this whole experience. If I can give you a takeaway, it's keep doing what you're doing. Keep engaging the middle school kids. Getting them hooked on this great game. Inspire those teenagers. Make them reach down and dig for more. Guide those upperclassmen. Make sure they make the right decisions. Because outside of their parents, you are probably, or maybe even, their strongest voice in their head. So please, keep doing what you're doing, because our game really needs it. Thank you, guys.